I've been making a list of all the things that I think Justin Trudeau has done wrong for like about 6 years, I guess. Thinking about it for six, actually writing it down for about four, at least four. Um, it's hard to know where to start. He's running for re-election. He's just borrowed a bunch of money. He's given it away to people who are already wealthy. They're fat and happy, and they can't understand anything that's going on, but that's okay. They'll probably re-elect him. And he's, of course, offered to send extra money to gay people and transgendered people and women and people of color. So they'll vote for him for the money, and that'll be that. We're going to get another 4 years of him. That's my prediction. And he's going to increase mail-in balloting, so if he doesn't win on election day, just watch. The key districts will swing his way after the election. He'll repeat what the Democrats did in the United States if necessary. And Canadians are so dumb they won't even know he did it. They won't notice the parallel. He's an authoritarian. He's doing the things that authoritarians do. Literally fascists, Nazis, communists, all the rest of them. The whole point of democracy is to avoid a small group of people from becoming too powerful and exerting too much influence over the rest of us. And we have institutions that we use to do that. One of them being the rule of law, separation of powers, independence of the judiciary. You can't have the political class telling the judiciary what to do, because eventually the ruling class will start telling the judiciary to shut down freedom of speech coming from the opposition, to put them in jail, or to do whatever. SNC Lavalin was a violation of the most basic of democratic principles, probably after freedom of speech or after other things. Maybe it's not the most basic, I don't know. But that's really bad, right? Obviously. It was proven, we all know that he did it. He adoringly eulogized Fidel Castro. This is in no particular order. Fidel Castro was a communist dictator who murdered a bunch of people along with Chavez. Chavez was a sexist and a racist and a sadist. So it's the gender balanced cabinet, which didn't work out that well, did it? Broke the idea of equality of opportunity. Just that. Do you want equality of opportunity or not? And you want the best people for the job or not? If you want those two things, you can't seek in the beginning to make it balance. Maybe it'll make some people feel better, I guess. Okay, anybody who thinks that you haven't achieved gender fairness in 2021 is out of their mind. You would have to be crazy to think that. Men pull ahead in some ways, women pull ahead in other ways. But just look around. Who do you see in the bread line? Oh, they must be lazy guys, right? Who do you see in prison? Oh my God, it's because they're so violent, which they are, etc., etc. Women dominate government sector jobs. That's municipalities, provinces, the federal government, all with really cushy pensions, right? Those women are not doing too badly. The India trip, Hindus will despise us for a while because he brought along a Sikh, and Sikhs are a big problem for Hindu nationalists. I don't know how many, there's 1 billion of them. They didn't want a Sikh showing up there with Justin and his crew. Never mind the narcissistic, childish dancing around and all that, how really ridiculous that was. That's one of the times I saw him angry. When he realized the world was laughing at him, he was pissed off. I like him when he's pissed off. But he deserved it. He admitted to an ongoing genocide of Aboriginal people under the pressure from the stupid missing and murdered Indigenous women program. Nobody said that was a success. Whoever it was, Catherine Bennett or whatever, whoever it was that ran that, they ran it in the ground, and they just re-traumatized a bunch of people. And at the end, they forced Trudeau to say that Canada was committing an ongoing genocide against Aboriginal people. As the leader of Canada, that means that he should be in prison for war crimes. He admitted to it already. You go to prison for that, okay? Cash for access. We know that one of the people who paid him a lot of money was a Chinese Communist Party mobster. He funded CBC. That's an authoritarian government taking control of the media. They do it everywhere. You can describe this situation to people from China or Russia or whatever. Communist countries say, yeah, that's the way it works in Russia. And you say, okay, hang on, I don't think it should be happening in Canada. Well, that's just the way it goes. Loads of people from communist countries are saying that the woke authoritarianism that's happening to Western countries is just authoritarianism. It's the same thing, just dressed up in this funny uniform. He paid off the independent media. They needed the money because there was so much competition from independent commentators that they couldn't compete. I felt sorry for them. I don't really mind that much that they got paid. But to think that they got nothing for it is impossible. It's human nature. There might have been some people, and I suspect this might be true with the National Post, is that it degraded them so much that their criticism of him was a little bit worse. But there's no way he's even come close to facing the sort of criticism that he deserves, or his government. Not even close. Maybe, like I'm going through this, I'm on number 7, and I have 61 to go. Coconegro, standards for me, but not for thee. Blackface, he said that was an opportunity for Canadians to learn something. I know, Justin, that was an opportunity for you to learn something. Don't dump it on us. You did it. You admit to it yourself, and maybe we can forget that embarrassment. He said that as a member of the privileged white elite, that he wouldn't have been aware of how hurtful that would be to black people. And that's absolute nonsense, because as a student in an elite background, that stuff would have been drummed in his head. He knew perfectly well that was, well, he should have. He's a moron. If he didn't know that, he's a moron. And if the school didn't stand up to him, they're morons. Never answered a question. How many times, Justin, did you meet with the ethics commissioner? How many times? How many times? How many times? It was a running joke. He may have given some sort of reasonable answer to that. And let's admit that the ethics commission, that department hasn't been open very long. So to say, oh, he's the first one to face 3 charges, yeah, well, that's so, yeah, in the last 10 years, it's not a, I don't know what'll happen to politicians in the future, but saying that he's the only one to face that 3 times is stupid too. He never answered a question. He borrowed $500 billion, printed probably as much, caused inflation, fed it all to the rich, who's got more money than they did at the beginning of the COVID, and put house ownership out of reach of regular Canadians. The people that will be able to buy houses in Canada will be foreigners with tons of dough, mostly. He screwed the working class and those trying hard to join it. Screwed them. He probably said that the lab leak theory was a conspiracy theory. Theresa Tam said that, and Theresa Tam knew better. She was probably one of the best positioned people in the entire world to know that the United States, and I'll bet Canada, was funding gain of research at the Wuhan lab. They created it on purpose. Almost everyone thinks that now. You get some scientists say, well, science is tricky and you can never say for sure, but Consensus is that that's what happened. And lab leak uh, theory was banned from social media. You couldn't say it. If you said it in Canada, you're probably a white supremacist. Theresa Tam knew that there was gain of function going on. Was well positioned to know. She was well positioned not to trust a single thing that they said after that, after lying about that. She went along with paying China for the vaccine, slowed down Canada's response to COVID by 2 or 3 months. It's criminal. He hired Julie Payette, not suited, brilliant woman, not suited, alienated Alberta. These are big ticket items. Canada is a country where you've got provinces, and hopefully we can stick together. He's done as much as he can to alienate Alberta. He's just done as much as he can. Okay, so he did a striptease in his campaign, stripped down to his pants, and then said that China was the country he admired most. To his credit, he said it was the country he admired most because of its economic system that allowed them to change their economy on a dime and tackle global warming. That's what he actually said. It's not quite as bad as it sounded. You have to finish the quote. In Montreal, he was questioned in English by an old lady who said, "Oh, Justin, I can't get decent medical care in Quebec because I can't speak French." And he answered her in French. An old lady talking about medical care, saying she can't speak English. I'm sorry, she can't speak French. He responded in French. He's a moron. The socks. Enough, Justin, with the socks. Really. The world didn't need that diversion. And, but they, what is that big meeting, in the Alps that they have all the richest people in the world, and they're talking about his socks? He took 300 people to the Paris Climate Summit, more by per capita than any country in the world by far. Went to Paris, had a nice vacation, maybe even did a little work. Definitely burned up a lot of jet fuel. Definitely spent a lot of money. And that's what he's about. He's about throwing other people's money around. M103, C10, C36, they're all attacks on freedom of expression. We all know it. It's been covered extensively. M103, C10, C36. He pumped up fear of white supremacy because he wants to be able to spy on and persecute critics. White supremacy is a problem, but the fact that one or two or three guys decide to carry out terrorist attacks is not an indictment of white people in Canada. The Danforth shooting was a terror attack. The guy who did that went to Pakistan to learn how to shoot a gun, came back, went to a Jewish neighborhood and shot it up. His brother had enough fentanyl in his closet to launch a terror attack. Too much fentanyl to sell. But if you complain about it, you have Islamophobia. They don't want people to actually criticize the text or the history of Islam because that will they can't distinguish that between bigoted behavior. It would probably cause bigoted behavior, but so does the anti-colonial, anti-white things they teach in university every single day. Okay. That's number 19, and I've got, I think, 63.